I was gonna wait on making this video until we ended up getting Everdark, Hellster, and Dreglord, but who knows if we even get those as bosses, so I might as well just make the video right now. There probably isn't going to be too many more Nightreign videos I'm going to be making, assuming that we've already had the final update for this game. I would like to be wrong, but you know, gotta keep the expectations low just in case. But yeah, for today, we're just going to be ranking all 18 of the boss relics in this game from worst to best, and it's based on how well they perform in Deep of Night. Starting off at the bottom, the normal Libra boss relic. This entire relic is designed for you to get your FP back, but it's done so in a way to where you have to proc madness on yourself, which drains your health and also drains your FP and wastes a lot of time, so it's just not really worth it by any means. It also does come with the effect that gives you a discount when buying things from the shop, which is pretty nice, but it's not worth an entire relic slot. Number 17, the normal Gladius Relic, which is not bad by any means. +1 stamina recovery on hits is fantastic quality of life, especially for those power stancing melee builds. And starting off with fire damage can be pretty cool, but it is also very limiting as you're only really using this against bosses that are weaker to fire damage. And even then, like a flaming strike build could just perform better. But unfortunately, it doesn't actually stack with the other +1 stamina recovery on hits in the Everdark Gladius Relic. And I'm just gonna like that one better overall, because it also comes with taking attacks improves attack power. Number 16, the normal Fulgor Relic, which this relic is very much designed for the Guardian. The more stamina, the HP recovery and thrusting counterattacks, and the guard countering boost option. All these relics are perfectly fine. I do think if you end up finding like a really good relic alongside the guard countering boost, then this boss relic isn't going to be as useful for the Guardian. And also like the Guardian is like arguably the worst character in the entire game. And the guard countering playstyle really hasn't gotten any better since like the release of the game. Like when the game first released and like for not Deep at Night, this relic is amazing. But nowadays there are just much better options for the Guardian. And the stamina recovery that you get off the Everdark Gladius Relic, I believe is much more valuable. Number 15, the Everdark Libra Relic, which in the same vein as the regular Libra Relic, the FP recovery portion of this is just completely terrible. There are much more FP efficient options out there, but there is one very specific use for this relic, and that is when you do pair this madness effect alongside the Dreglord Relic and have things like rot build up below max HP, because it can help keep the uptime of the buff that the Dreglord Relic does give, and we will talk about that relic in a bit. But for almost every single character, it's just not really worth using, because you're pretty much always going to be at below max health, which you definitely don't want to do, unless you are playing a tanking raider build. By stacking into all these damage negation weapon passives and these relic perks, you can effectively stay between like 0 and max HP pretty easily, and the fact that this relic perk does come in combination with taking attacks improves attack power is also fantastic. Now even then, it still is going to be very gimmicky. It's not going to be that easy to set up, and when it does come to how the build plays out, I think there are just going to be better options for a tanking raider build, but once again, I'll talk about that once we get to the Dreglord Relic. Number 14, we have the regular Adel Relic, which this one is just like a bunch of critical attack buffs, which you will typically pair with a critical attack damaging build, which is only really going to perform well in solo play. And even then, the Everdark Adel Relic I think is just going to directly outclass it, because unfortunately the +1 critical attack perks do not stack together. But obviously it is going to be very valuable if you do go with a critical attack build because of the extra bit of ult regen that you do get. And there might be times where like certain color combinations aren't going to be in your favor, where you probably end up settling for this one instead. Number 13, we have the regular Augur Relic, which is definitely one of the better relics when it does come to this, having more survivability and just better tanking, because the increased maximum HP is effectively 100 more health. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't stack with the other Augur Relic, and I do consider that one to just be better, because it also comes in combination with continuous HP recovery and then health regen at lower health, because that's going to be good in both trios and solos, whereas the Augur Relic is only really going to be good in a team, because it does come in combination with the flasks heals allies, which inherently does worsen your own healing flask, and also comes with items confer effects to allies, which in solo is going to be worse because you get stuck in a longer animation. But the reason why it is going to get to the B tier is because if you are playing a lot in trios, and if you are playing like a tanking based build with either somebody like the Guardian or the Raider, you might want to have a relic perk like this because you're playing a tanking based build to help support your team anyway. Number 12, the Dreglord Relic, which this relic on paper sounds amazing, being able to have up to 45% more damage to all of your sources and have rot build up on your weapons. Like, it sounds pretty OP, but unfortunately in practice it is going to be very hard to set up, because the damage boost requires you to have a status bar on your screen for up to 3 minutes to be able to gain that full effect of the damage boost, and the rot buildup requires you to get hits, which in depth 5, not going to really be as ideal. Now, the damage boosting portion is definitely why you want to be able to use this relic, because 45% damage is obviously amazing for one perk. And the ways that you can build around this is either one, going into a madness build where you just spam things like the Flame of Frenzy, which in a boss fight can do pretty well. Although trying to maintain it throughout an entire expedition can be very tedious because like you're just constantly spamming the Flame of Frenzy and it's going to be a lot further back behind your team. And also to keep in mind that it is going to drain your FP on doing so. So I just honestly wouldn't really bother. You can actually use the Seppuku build with the Executor and have things like Rot build up below max HP. But I don't really like this build either because you have 2 dedicated relics just to be able to get that 40-something% damage boost, which the Balancer relics can already do that for you in a skill-based build. But even if you did want to use Seppuku, part of the reason why I do find the Seppuku build to be so valuable is because you can spam it back to back and give yourself a damage boost on the passive and then use your ultimates to have your ultimate do amazing damage. And unfortunately for the Dreglord relic, when you do pop your ultimate, it's going to remove the status effect and give you all your health back. So if you do want to go with this build, you're not going to be utilizing one of the best ults in the entire game. So the only build where I would use this with would be the tanking raider build, as I mentioned earlier with the Everdark Libra relic. I do think the tanking raider build is his best, but I don't think that this iteration of the tanking build is going to be best, unless maybe that you're playing solo play and you really value that extra damage. But the reason why I don't really care for it is because this is a designed tanking based build where your damage isn't really going to be that high. So adding a percentage of your damage to a build that's not really going to be doing much damage isn't really going to be doing much for you. And just to really drive home that point, even if you do have that full 45% damage and like the taking attacks improves attack power, an initial standard attack build is still going to outdamage it no matter what. Now, I don't think the initial standard attack build is better because obviously this build does utilize the damage and the damage negation, but there are going to be a few main reasons why I don't really value this build. And that's one, is that you're always going to end up being behind your team. And the main reason why you want to play tanking raider is so you can tank all the damage to allow your teammates to just effectively just do more damage in return. Not even accounting for the fact that it's already hard to try and maintain that max buff because any single time that you walk past a grace, it's like a guessing game when the buff is going to wear off or not. But also you're going to be taking up 2 relic slots just to be able to get this damage, so therefore you're going to be sacrificing some other amazing things, like having things like the Augur relic or the Everdark Caliga relic for better tanking. The Red Balancer relic with the occasionally nullified attacks is like the best survivability based perk in the entire game, or even the damage boost that you can get from the character skill. You're going to end up sacrificing a handful of these just so you can be able to get that more damage for a build that's not really meant to do that much damage anyway. Like if it was easy to set up, then there will be no reason not to run it. But the setup is inconvenient. It's going to make your tanking be even worse because you're either always going to be rotted or it's going to be at a lot lower health. And it's going to make it a lot more RNG heavy as you're going to rely a lot heavier on the weapon passives. And the longer that you go without finding things like damage negation on charged heavy attacks or taking damage boost damage negation, the harder this build is going to end up being. Whereas comparatively, if you ended up going with more damage negation and more health, or the Balancer relic, it's going to help this build be more active because you're going to be staying alive for longer. And when it comes to the rot portion of the weapon, I do think it's pretty fine, although there is going to be the downside of having it override your weapon element, so you can't take advantage of like the Knight's Lord weaknesses. And if you do find things like charged heavy attack bonuses, it's going to override those too. But I still think it is like a net positive overall. But yeah, that's basically the only build that I would use it with. And even then it'd only be in solo play, so I'm not like inconveniencing my team. But if you are playing this build in solo, then good luck trying to find all those like damage negation weapon passives. Number 11, we have the Night Aspect Relic, which has gotten a lot lower on my list since my first time making a video like this. And that's because I did have this to be the best relic to have with your bow-based build with the Iron Eye. But in Deeper Night, I don't really value it as much because this doesn't have any synergy with the precision aiming buffs. And also with how many amazing weapon passes that you get, constantly having to have your top row full of bows and switching back and forth is going to be more restrictive. And there are just like much better relics out there nowadays, especially for like Deep of Night, that can just offer a lot more damage. Now, that being said, it's still a perfectly fine relic to have if you just have terrible RNG and you just want to get some decent damage with the build, because any single time that you switch, it's going to be a 10% damage boost and just buff your weapon. So you can effectively just be able to have access to every single element, which is great for fighting Night Lords. And it also does come in combination with the added affinity attacks perk. and this added affinity attacks does give all your elemental weapons a 5% damage boost, and if it is a pure elemental weapon like the coated sword, it's going to get a full 10% damage boost. But this also does extend to elemental based skills like the Halo Scythe, the Black Knife, Moonveil, Glintstone Chris. They're all going to be getting that full 10% damage boost with this thing equipped, and any single time that you switch, you can get another additional 10% damage boost, which is pretty much like having a Balancer Relic. So if you did want to have that type of build, you could just end up using the Balancer Relic instead. But another good use for this particular build is if you are playing with the Recluse, because you can give the Recluse much more elemental options to absorb them in your cocktail and get all these fantastic combinations. Number 10, the Everdark Gladius Relic, which this is a fantastic relic for many different characters. The stamina recovery on hits is the best stamina perk that you can get in the game, and it does pair perfectly with those power stancing builds, and I do believe that the Undertaker is the best person to use for these power stancing builds. And the fact that she does have a damage negation character skill can pretty much allow her to take a hit, especially if you have successive attacks negate damage, and that's where the taking attacks improves attack power does come into play. This is one of the best relic perks in the entire game in my opinion, because if you do track how many times that you get hits throughout your expedition, you're going to realize that this perk comes up a lot more than you think. Now with certain lower HP characters that are going to get one shot, might not be the most amazing thing, but with the characters that you do want to use this with, namely the Undertaker, Wilder, and especially the Guardian, this is going to help out a lot. And the fact that it does come with fire attack up +2 can be pretty cool, but it's mainly the first two perks is why you want to run this relic. Number 9, Everdark Caligo Relic, which does offer frost on your weapon, more physical damage negation, and the ability to turn invisible when frostbite is in the nearby vicinity. Which just for that one perk alone, it is enough for this thing to be into the top 10. Just being able to proc frost and turn invisible is amazing for dealing with gangs of enemies, for like annoying points of interest, and sometimes even in a boss fight to like just reposition yourself. I do believe it's much more valuable in solo play than it is in trios. But the frost buildup that you do have infused onto your weapon is only going to be valuable for a couple of different characters, namely the ones that are going to have the higher amounts of arcane, because the frost buildup is not that high at all. So you're going to need someone like the Executor or the Scholar or the Iron Eye with the arcane relic to take full advantage of this. And even then, there are going to be too many circumstances where you're going to want to stick with your main weapon. Maybe the Executor is going to be the best one, and you can pair this alongside Seppuku for a very solid build. Although the Seppuku build I kind of value a lot less in Deep of Night, being that it does drain your health, but being that you have your ultimates to give you all your health back, it can make for a very solid build. Number 8, we have the Everdark Sentient Pest Relic, which does just offer a whole bunch of FP boosts, and as I always mentioned, I love to have damage boosting stuff to be a part of my relics, and having a whole dedicated relic just for FP is going to require a very specific build. And there is one very specific build that makes this boss relic be A tier, and that is specifically with the Executor and a Balancer based build. Because as you can tell from all these perks, it's definitely going to be a lot better for a melee character due to it having the FP recovery on successive attacks, and having the increased maximum FP is going to be a flat amount of FP, which works a lot better on a character that doesn't already have much mind. And also the fact that it is a green relic can be a downside, because there aren't too many characters out there that can actually have the double balances alongside this perk. But do you know what character can? The Executor. He can have all three of these relic perks together, and if you do end up using one of the amazing weapon skills in the game from the katanas, whether it's be Unsheath, Moonveil, or the Rivers of Blood, you're going to be able to spam it a lot more often. Like it pretty much counts as the only weakness for one of the best builds in the entire game. At number 7, we have the Caligo Relic, which just like the regular Everdark Caligo Relic, it does come with that invisibility perk, which is like an S tier perk to have in solo play. And the reason why I do value this one a little bit more is because the Everdark Caligo Relic is probably going to be more so for like either a tanking based build with a Raider, due to it being the only damage negation perk that you can get for your regular slots, or with a Seppuku Executor build, whereas the regular Caligo Relic can be used on almost everybody. And the reason being is that Chilling Mist can actually proc frost a lot faster. You can just leave it on your main weapon, you don't even have to have it upgraded, just use Chilling Mist, maybe use a couple of light attacks, and it'll pretty much instantly proc frost. And then you actually gain an additional damage boost, because the enemy will be frostbitten, and then switch back to your main weapons, you'll be invisible, and then just spam away. Now, I definitely do think this still does best pair with the Executor alongside the Sentient Pest Relic for one of like the easiest builds in the entire game. Like if you don't care to manage FP or use like his character skill a whole bunch. But honestly, if you are struggling in depth 5 because like some of these points of interest are just getting you killed, slapping on the Kaliga Relic or even just having Hoarfrost Stomp equipped ahead of this one is going to make it fantastic. And at number 6, we have the Sentient Pest Relic. Now, as I just mentioned with the Kaliga Relic, you can pair these two together with the Executor and make for a very easy build, just utilizing triple status effects. And it is a guaranteed build, just go to a tunnel, make your starting katana purple. Now, for that build, I do think the Kaliga Relic is more valuable because of the invisibility, but the Sentient Pest Relic does another thing for another specific build that just makes it be better. And that is with the Iron Eye and the Poison Relic. Like the best build for like the best character in the entire game pretty much utilizes this boss relic because I just like to leave my poison bow on my offhand, lead off the fight with poison, and then just spam my character skill to get that percentage damage. And just have like my katana just do like all the damage in the world. Have this paired alongside the Arcane Relic too. Now I'm not going to really put it any higher because there aren't too many other characters that would like to use this relic. But it still has to get S tier because it does pair perfectly with two of the best damaging characters. Number 5, the Everdark Fulgor Relic. Now just like the regular Fulgor Relic, it does come with the increased stamina, which is pretty nice. But the main reason why you want to run this is because of the other two perks. One of them being defeating enemies gives you more ult regen, which can come on other relics as well. But this is definitely one of the best relic perks in the entire game, especially in combination with the +1 version. Because you'll be getting your ultimate back so quickly, just kill like 5 to 6 enemies and you can get your entire ult back. It's really that powerful. But it also does come with the added affinity effect, which as I talked about with the Night Aspect Relic, it is really good in combination with a skill-based build, because it does offer you a 10% damage boost to your elemental-based weapons. Now, it is specifically just the elemental portion of that, so if you do hit pure elemental damage with a skill, like the Moonbell or the Halo Scythe, the Black Knife, the Family Heads, any of those weapons are just going to get that full 10% damage boost, and you happen to just have more stamina, and defeating enemies gives you more ult. Like, it's a fantastic relic. Number 4, the Everdark Augur Relic, which a lot of people tend to use this relic because it just offers more survivability, especially early game with its +100 HP. And the good thing about having a health boost in this game is that it also just boosts your healing too, because your healing is percentage based, so the more health that you have, the better your heals. But unfortunately for the relics, there aren't too many options when it comes to survivability, so this is definitely going to be like the best tanking perk for a lot of characters, because typically the damage negation perks are only going to boost either physical damage or elemental damage, whereas just having more health is just going to allow you to tank both. And it just happens to come in combination with continuous HP recovery, which can be fantastic, because if you do end up finding a really good weapon with continuous HP loss, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And also the health regen at low HP to you and your allies is just a nice little added bonus too. Doesn't come up that often, but when it does, it is very noticeable. Number 3, the Everdark Adele Relic. I think critical attack builds are like the single best builds to make in solo play because they just offer so much more damage. And if you have a way to stance break quickly, which in solo mode is a lot easier, then it can just be a guaranteed broken build. Now, the characters that I do typically use this with would be the Wilder and the Executor. The Executor because of his character skill having the deflect and being able to do stance damage, and then the Wilder being that he synergizes perfectly with fist weapons, and that fist weapons are like the best stance breaking tools in the entire game. This relic is going to be the most important thing for that particular build. Now, obviously, you have to pair it alongside a bunch of other critical hit-based buffs, so it's not like this thing is going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But the reason why I'm not going to put it any higher is because in trios, I don't really care to run a critical attack build unless you are fighting the Balancers, which the Balancers are probably the most challenging boss to fight in Deep of Night. So a Wilder parrying build with critical attack buffs can just kind of hard counter that. But yeah, the reason why it's not going to get any higher is, yeah, you guessed it, the Balancer Relics. Both of them are number 1 and number 2. I do think the Red Balancer Relic is a lot better because of the occasionally nullified attacks. This perk literally has 20% of the attacks dealt to you just do no damage. And there are some times where you get hit back to back to back and every single one just does no damage, which I don't think I have to describe how valuable that is in Deep of Night. Now, to have this activated, you have to get debuffed to your damage negation, which is very easy to set up in Deep of Night with all like the different cursed weapons that are going around. If you just pick up something like affinity damage negation reduced by like 5%, just pick it up every single time. Any Scorpion Charm Talisman only like debuffs your physical damage negation by 3%. If you have damage negation reduced by Knight's Encroachment, that one's basically a free perk as well. This thing also activates when you're just standing in water because it does lower your lightning damage negation. Like, it's easily the best survivability perk in the entire game, but it also happens to come with melee attack power and skill attack power. It's like, it's just fucking broken. Because yeah, the skill attack power is 15% damage boost and the melee attack power is a 5% damage boost. But the funny thing is, melee attack power does also boost the damage of like almost every single skill in the entire game. So it pretty much is roughly 20% more damage to your skills just by having this one relic equipped. And his weapon skills already do ridiculous damage, and there seems to be lots of like skill attack up weapon passives going around the entire game. And all these things just stack together multiplicatively, which typically doesn't happen with the relics. Like, normally boss relics don't stack together, but for some reason, the most powerful one in the skill attack power stacks with the other skill attack power. So yeah, both of them working together in tandem is fantastic, but if I could only equip the one, it would be the red balancer relic, because occasionally nullified attacks I value a lot more than that FP regen, although the FP regen is okay, but nothing too amazing. Okay, but that's now done and complete. As always, let me know what your opinions are down in the comments below. I'm not going to have too many more Nightreign videos coming out. I have like a few more that I do want to make, but past that point, if we don't get any more updates, probably just going to end up going back to this regular Soulsborne content until we see a brand new thing by From Software. It's pretty much just going to be that. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next one. See yous.